Welcome to a deck tech video for a community-created format, Clash. If you're not familiar with it, let me give you a brief rundown of what the rules are. At its core, Clash is a very budget-friendly version of Blitz that tries to slow down the format a bit, while also giving you more variety than Commoner. To achieve that, only commons and rares are allowed, with a small exception. Clash wants you to be able to get a good feel for your hero's identity, and so hero specializations, mentors, weapons and heroes may be of any rarity. Another thing that differs from Commoner and Blitz is the presence of a sideboard. Not only does this help you prepare better for specific hero matchups, it also helps you prepare for Classic Constructed, as it is the only official format that uses a sideboard. So in total you will have a hero and a base set of armor and weapons, a 40 card deck, as well as a 20 card sideboard comprised of additional armor, weapons and other cards you might only need in certain circumstances. Now as a little introduction to today's deck. My Commoner Bravo deck is my absolute favorite deck. You can comfortably block out attacks while you set up big damage turns, and your opponent can only watch on in despair as an 18 damage attack with Dominate comes their way. And it does that consistently. The next logical step was that I wanted to build a Blitz and even Classic Constructed deck with Bravo as well. The problem for me here was that I feel like Bravo really needs a lot of the Guardian Majestics in order to keep up in those formats. It's even more unfortunate that those Majestics are all pretty expensive to me. Dismayed, I set aside my Bravo domination aspirations. But that is where Clash comes in to save my day. Since the pool of Majestics here is extremely limited, I don't need to fret about keeping up anymore. Furthermore, I am very happy that this deck feels like a natural progression of my Bravo Commoner deck. So, all of the core pieces that I really love are still in here, while the overall quality of cards has improved. Okay, I've been yapping away for far too long now, even though I feel like it was necessary. I mentioned that I felt Bravo was too expensive for me in other formats, but how expensive is he in Clash? Well, I'm pleased to tell you that this deck comes in at $16.79 for 67 cards total. Totally alright with me. Our hero Bravo has an ability that can be activated for 2 resources. With it we will give all our attacks with cost 3 or greater Dominate that turn. A very powerful ability that I actually don't use too often in Commoner, since I'm a big fan of taking cards out of our opponent's hands. But of course we have a few ways to do that as well, especially if we give certain attacks Dominate. We'll go with the same weapon and armor combo as my Commoner list. Titan's Fist needs 3 resources to attack for 3, but if there's a card with cost 3 or more in our pitch zone, it attacks for 4 instead. With an average cost of 4.4, it sounds manageable. My trusty old friend Steelbraid Buckler has a block value of 2 and temper. Essentially, we'll have 3 additional health with this, as the Buckler will only gain a -1 counter after blocking. So we can block twice with it before it is destroyed, in most cases anyway. The full Commoner armor suite makes a return as well. Helm of Icen's Peak can be a peak performance card indeed. Its ability on top of the 1 armor with Battle Worn is what makes it so excellent for this deck's playstyle. If we pay 1 resource and destroy the helm, Bravo gains +1 intelligence until end of turn. I prefer to block with it early on, so I don't feel bad when I sacrifice it for a huge setup turn. Playing a red Seismic Stir and destroying Helm of Icen's Peak just feels so good and should set off alarm bells for our opponents. Iron Rod legs will basically provide us with 1 more HP, as well as they have 1 armor and Blade Break. But that's all we need from our legs really. The other 2 equipment pieces will hit them with a quick 1-2, truly a classic. Hardened Crossstrap reduces the cost of our next attack action card by 2 if we destroy it. And Goliath Gauntlet will make any attack in this deck deal 2 additional damage if we choose to destroy that. Combine them and carnage ensues. We'll take a look at the remaining armor at the end, because they're part of our sideboard as well in Clash, and we'll check that out at the end. Crippling Crush, Macho Grande and Thunderquake are our biggest hitters. Crippling Crush costs 7 and strikes for 11. It has Crush, meaning if it hits a hero for 4 or more, they have to discard 2 cards at random. Macho Grande costs 7 as well, but strikes for only 10. How weak. While it doesn't have Crush, it does have Dominate. We play the blue version of that as well, which still deals 8 damage. Thunderquake is a card I'm really excited about. It deals 10 or 8 damage as well, as we also play the red and blue versions of this card, but it costs 6 resources. It has an ability that we don't have access to in Commoner with Heave 3. At the beginning of the end phase, if Thunderquake is in our hand, we may pay 3 resources to put it face up into Arsenal. If we do, we create 3 Seismic Surge tokens. Now listen, I already look forward to playing Seismic Surge into Helm of Icen's Peak, pitching a blue, and then ending the turn with a Heave 3 activation. I'll take a free 10 damage Thunderquake any day of the week. The red and blue Disable are the only 5 cost cards of the deck, and they deal either 9 or 7 damage. They have another Crush effect that makes our opponent put a card from their arsenal on the bottom of their deck, if it hits for 4 or more that is. We only run the blue-colored Buckling Blow, Chokeslam, Debilitate and Thump, which all cost 4 resources to play. Buckling Blow, Chokeslam and Debilitate all have 6 attack and different Crush effects. Buckling Blow puts a -1 counter on a piece of equipment our opponent controls if it hits for 4 or more. Chokeslam will make sure their attacks can't gain additional attack value on their next turn if they take 4 or more damage. And if Debilitate hits for 4 or more, our opponent's first attack on their next turn will deal 2 less damage. Thump on the other hand is a bit of a, let's say, different card. With 4 power, it's the lowest hitting card in this deck. It's mostly used to pitch or to block for 3. But with a pummel in hand, it can be absolutely devastating, because while Thump's attack value is higher than its base attack, it has Dominate, and if it hits our opponent, they have to discard a card. Speaking of pummel, let's take a look at our attack buffs. First, we play all colors of pummel. I love this card, as long as I'm not on the receiving end that is. It can increase the damage of either our attack cards or even our hammer by 4, 3 or 2. But only if we buff our 2+ cost attacks with it, will our opponent have to discard a card if it hits. Slogism has served me well in Commoner, so it's included as well. For 3 resources, it increases the damage of our next attack by 6. Pair that with the cost reduction this deck offers, and we have an absolutely nasty combination on our hands. The last buff? Well, I'll be honest, it's pretty out there and clunky. But since I love cards like that, I at least wanted to give this one a shot. Most of the time you will likely be using this card to either pitch or block. But if you can spare the 9 resources it needs, the payoff will be immense. The blue Towering Titan is a sight to behold. It's an aura that is destroyed at the beginning of our action phase. Then the next Guardian attack action card we play that turn gains +8 attack. 3 remaining cards now. The red Seismic Stir is also one of the true MVPs of my Commoner deck, so it returns for Clash. With it we create 3 Seismic Surge tokens for 2 resources, then we go again. Showtime! Is an aura, another Bravo specialization, and it costs 3 resources. When it enters the arena, we can search our deck for a Guardian attack, reveal it, and put it into our hand. Don't forget to shuffle. That's not all though. It is destroyed at the beginning of our action phase and we then draw a card. The last card of our base deck is another returnee, Stonewall Confidence. It's an aura that costs 2 resources and has Go Again. While it's in the arena, our cards with cost 3 or more gain 2 additional block value while defending. Since this deck's game plan wants to lean back and full block while it's setting up big swing turns, this is an amazing card that can turn a 4-card hand into 20 block. Alas, it is destroyed at the beginning of our action phase. With the main deck done, we move on to the sideboard. And let me give you a disclaimer here. Basically the same as for my Icelander CC deck. I never really cared about any sideboards in any card game whatsoever. So I'm not too familiar with them. I put in situational cards that I thought made the most sense, of course, and I'm pretty happy with it, for now. If you have some suggestions, then please let me know. I'd be really happy to hear your opinions on this. Let's take a look at the equipment and weapon first. I put an Othos in here because it usually seems to be the go-to weapon for Bravo. If we ever feel like we don't need Steel Braid Buckler's extra block, then we can swap our usual weapon and offhand out for this. I prefer the block, but who knows? Trial and error. Arcane Lantern, Narune Boots and Narune Gloves provide us with the coveted 3 Arcane Barrier. The offhand item Arcane Barrier is just a really nice addition, and against wizards we need less physical block than against other heroes. So swap the shield out for this. The red buckling blow is in here in case we really need to get rid of our opponent's equipment. We already have the blue version in our main deck, but sometimes you have to make extra sure. The red and blue Crush Confidence and Crush the Weak both cost 3 resources and hit for either 7 or 5 damage. Both of them have Crush as well, who would have thought? In case our opponent's playstyle is very hero-centric, Crush the Weak can take care of that. If it hits for 4 or more, our opponent's hero loses all hero card effects and activated abilities until the end of their next turn. If we run into a go-wide deck that wants to attack with a lot of low damage attacks, we can swap in Crush the Weak. If it crushes, they can't play attack action cards with 3 or less base power during their next action phase. Truly crushing a game plan as well as hopes and dreams. A card I'm not too sure about, but put in here because I had free space, is Zealous Belting. If we ever need an attack that can let us go again, Zealous Belting is the card for us. For 2 resources, it deals 5 damage. If there's a card with greater base power than Zealous Beltings in our pitch zone, Zealous Belting has Go Again. Lastly, we have 2 different defense reactions in Sink Below and Staunch Response, which are both red. Sink Below is the all-time great that's basically in every deck in existence and will be until the end of time. It's on the screen, but I don't think I need to talk about it anymore. And Staunch Response costs 2 resources and blocks for 7. As an additional cost to play it, we can pay an additional 4 resources for it to gain 3 more block, for a total of 10. So yeah, if we run into another dominating hero, we can play this to still block 10 with a single card from hand. Oh, damn, that was a long one. And now I have some questions for you as well. Do you already play Clash? If so, how do you like the format compared to the official ones? What do you think of this deck? As it is my first foray into Clash, I don't know what works and what doesn't yet. Or how many liberties you can take with so-called pet cards. And lastly, would you like to see more Clash decks, or should I stick to the official formats for now? Also, if you haven't yet, then please consider liking the video and subscribing if you enjoy what you see. There will be a lot more budget decks for all kinds of formats and even gameplay videos coming your way. Truly done now, I hope to see you in the next video as well. Take care.